Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm so glad you can join me today for our discussion about mobile homes and the ins and outs of some of these transactions. Elmer, I'm so delighted to see you on as well. You've had a number of these. I think you're our local Iron Valley expert by this time. But we want to talk.
I got another one coming too.
Oh, good, good, good. So let's dive into it a while, and if other people want to join in, they can certainly do so and dial in and join the broadcast. So my client is buying or selling a mobile home. What do I do, or what do I need to know in order to make this transaction run smoothly? Well, most of you are already aware that mobile homes are sort of a niche market. They're also referred to as manufactured homes. And we want to tell you what the ins and outs are of the closings for these so that you have a general idea of what to expect. Mobile homes also today can be a quality choice for a buyer. They're really shedding their stigma. As certainly the quality of the homes goes up and different features are added. And there's different segments of the market to that as well. A lot of you are aware of the really burgeoning tiny house movement that's sweeping the nation. Tiny houses are actually kind of considered to be a segment of the RV market. So there's a small distinction there that might be kind of important for you to know. And then there's also modular homes, which are very distinct.
They are giving me access to my loops that I use to.
Let me see if I can.
So
you gotta mute yourself.
There we go. I think I muted her. There we go. So you have a modular home, which is different from a mobile home that we're discussing. A modular home is actually assembled on site, whereas a mobile home is actually delivered intact to the site. Nationwide, about 22 million people live in mobile homes. In Pennsylvania alone, there are about 230,000. The state with the most is currently Florida with nearly 1 million. Right now in Maryland, there are about 40,000 mobile homes. Interesting fact that Texas is currently number 2 right behind Florida. And Texas is projected to overtake Florida in the next couple of years. Interesting thing about Texas, there's not a lot of zoning down there, so pretty much anything goes. And there is a lot of available land in Texas for parks to burgeon. So why do people choose mobile homes? A lot of these are kind of self-explanatory. If you've been in real estate for any amount of time, you know that they're a lower cost barrier to home ownership for a lot of people. Maintenance on them can be less time consuming than with a regular stick-built house. You often get more space for your money than you would with an apartment. As I said before, mobile homes are a lot higher quality than they have been in the past. And a buyer can also find a sort of a sense of community in a well-run park. So mobile homes can make interesting deals for you. They are versatile housing, to put it mildly, and they can sit on land that is either owned by the seller or that is rented in a mobile home park. Mobile homes that sit on owned land may have a deed to the land and the improvements on it. However, many mobile homes still have their title. Now, what do we mean by that? A mobile home title is a state-issued paper which conveys ownership of personal property. It's just like a vehicle title in that a title is used for a mobile home which is not permanently affixed to the land. I often tell folks it's just like a car title. A mobile home is considered simply to be personal property or chattel in the old ancient language of describing ownership. So you'll find a title more often than not with many mobile homes, especially if they're in a park. It's guaranteed that it will have a title with it. So as we alluded to before, a mobile home is not part of real estate unless it no longer has its title. As I said before, a mobile home is considered personal property, just like a car. And we have a picture of a Tesla there to correlate the relationship. But a mobile home, again, it will not have a deed unless the title has been what we call retired. Mobile home titles are issued by PennDOT or by the Maryland MVA. As I said before, they're considered chattel or personal property, just like a vehicle. And if a mobile home is going to be permanently affixed to the land, then the title actually gets retired. The owner would actually petition PennDOT using form number MV16. It's an application to retire the title because the owner has found a piece of land and they want to permanently leave the mobile home on that property. It will then become part of the real estate once that title is retired, and a deed would be issued to subsequent home buyers. So how can you find out if a mobile home title has been retired or not? All you have to do is call PennDOT. They will need the title number if the seller has the original title, or the prior owner's names and current owner's names so that they can do a search a couple of owners back. Having the mobile home registration number will help. The more information that you can give the PennDOT agent when you call, the better, because you may be on hold for a while and you don't want to waste your time. Or better yet, you can even have the seller do this. So we want to look at some different scenarios that are involved with the sale of a mobile home. For example, the seller owns the land and the mobile home title has already been retired. The second scenario being that the seller would rent their lot in a park, and they also have a paid off mobile home. And scenario 3, the seller rents their home in a park, but they still also have a loan on it. Let's look at the first scenario. If a seller has retired their title already and they own their land, meaning that the mobile home is a permanent fixture on that property, then we simply proceed with a normal closing. A deed is issued to the buyer for the land and the improvements thereon. The buyer at closing will receive an owner's title policy from Watermark, which will protect their ownership rights in the land and the improvements. So this is a simple, normal closing if the title has already been retired and the seller already owns the land that the mobile home is on. Now, if a seller has a paid off mobile home, but the home is in a park, then Watermark will conduct a normal settlement where taxes and lot rent are actually prorated on the settlement sheet. Other expenses get paid like normal. Often there is an initiation fee for a buyer who's making entry into the mobile home park. There is no deed because the seller does not own the land. And guess what? The buyer does not receive an owner's title policy. There's nothing for us to insure because there is no, again, there's no land that's being conveyed with a mobile home. The seller will receive their proceeds at closing like normal, and we will disperse and pay all the bills associated with closing, and commission checks will be cut as well. After settlement, the buyer and the seller will go to a PennDOT agent to transfer the mobile home title. Because the mobile home is paid off, the seller would be bringing this to closing with them as proof that they have it. And then after our settlement, they would need to simply go to a PennDOT messenger service to have the title officially transferred. And we'll talk about why that is in just a moment. Our other scenario is if the seller rents in a park and they still have a loan on their mobile home, what happens then? Again, Watermark will do a settlement where taxes and lot rent are prorated and other expenses get paid at closing like normal. The seller will receive their proceeds and we will disperse. Commission checks will be issued. A payoff will be sent in this instance to the seller's mortgage company. So we don't have a title at closing because the mobile home is not paid off. After 30 to 45 days, sometimes it can take up to 6 weeks, but usually 45 days is the max. The lender will then send the title to the seller. Now, this is really important. After our closing and after the seller receives that title, they will meet, the buyer and the seller will meet at the PennDOT agent to go ahead and officially transfer that title. That's a very important step that has to happen for the title to be transferred at that time. Now, the PennDOT agent is going to require some things in order to transfer the title. They're going to require the proof of sale, and this is either going to be the HUD or the bill of sale. They're going to require proof that all the taxes are paid on this mobile home as well, which will be provided by Watermark Land Transfer, of course. The seller needs to bring the original title to the title transfer session, not a copy. And the buyer and the seller, of course, have to have their ID so that the transfer can be consummated. Now, Watermark Land Transfer is not a PennDOT or an MVA agent. And so for this reason, we can't transfer the mobile home title by ourselves. Becoming a PennDOT or MVA certified agent is a whole other area of certification involving motor vehicles that quite frankly, we're not interested in getting involved in. So our expertise is real estate and we want to keep it that way. So that's why a two-step closing process is necessary. I can't think of a title company around here that actually is also a messenger service for PennDOT. Again, it's really, really involved, and it would involve a lot more than us just being able to transfer, mobile home titles. So that's why we're not involved in that area and why a two-step closing is necessary. So here's a scenario that comes up. What happens if a buyer is getting a loan to buy the mobile home? There are mobile home lenders out there. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to, who would be the best place to go for PennDOT? Is that like Runkles or PennDOT itself?
Runkles or Abels. You can even go up to PennDOT if you wish, but locally here, Runkles and Abels and those kinds of places are so close. So.
And do you know what it costs to?
Yes, I believe it's $81, and that traditionally is paid by the buyer, unless the seller and the buyer agree to split it, but traditionally paid by the buyer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Gary Lynn, can a car dealer do it?
Great question. I think if they're also certified as a messenger service, they can, which they should be. So probably, I would say they probably can. Will they do it for a deal that they haven't worked on though? I'm not sure. That might be a phone call to ask them if they'll do that. Yeah.
You said they need the original title. Is that something that you have to have for your part of the closing so they'll already have their hands on it? Or is that something?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, so in a couple of scenarios, like if the seller has a mortgage on the mobile home, they won't have the title at closing because that seller's lender is not going to ship the original title to us before they get their payoff. So that's why there's going to be a gap in between Watermark doing a closing and then the seller receiving the original title within about 45 days after our closing. So the seller won't have their title right away if they have a loan on the mobile home. That loan has to be paid off first. So I hope that answers your question.
Do they ever not bring the title and complete the second part?
No, I've never heard of that happening. No, because the buyer will really be upset if that doesn't happen. We make the buyer and the seller sign an agreement, a compliance agreement at closing. And also there is a post-closing agreement that the buyer and the seller both sign off on, and contact information gets exchanged between buyer and seller so that they know how to get in touch with each other. We wanted to touch base about what happens when a buyer is getting a loan to buy a mobile home. So the process is a little bit different than what we usually experience at the closing table. The buyer's lender is going to include powers of attorney in the buyer's loan package. The seller will sign off on those at closing. The buyer's lender then is going to work directly with PennDOT or the MVA to transfer the mobile home title for themselves. The buyer's lender then is going to hold that title until the home is paid off. So there's no visit to a PennDOT or MVA agent needed after closing because the buyer's lender is going to work to obtain that title and keep it with the buyer's lender. Now, interestingly, for a buyer's loan closing to buy a mobile home, the seller may not receive their proceeds and we can't disperse until after the buyer's lender has certified the loan package that we send back to them. So disbursement won't happen maybe it's typically 2 days, but it can be longer if the lender needs more documentation or something like that. But so once the lender, the buyer's lender, gives the okay that they're satisfied with the completion of the loan documents, then we can disperse and hand out commissions and give the seller their proceeds. So when a buyer gets a loan, there's a couple of more complications involved with that mobile home title. Now, in most cases as well, you should keep in mind that the mobile home park typically has to approve the buyer ahead of time. So your buyer really should apply for a mobile home park approval early in the process, because there also might be initiation fees and application fees to become a member of the park community. And that sort of mirrors an HOA in some respects. There might be just fees for your buyer to be looking out for. Now, interestingly, we touched on this earlier, a mobile home is considered real estate only if the title is retired and the seller owns that land underneath of it. So for that reason, title insurance is not available for a movable mobile home that's still located in a park. Again, an owner's title policy can only be issued for mobile homes that are permanently affixed to owned land. And when they are permanently affixed to owned land, as we said in the first example involving our seller, then we can issue a deed and the title policy. It'll be like a normal closing at that point. Also, agents, just a reminder too, to make sure that you are completing the correct contract for your situation, because an agreement of sale for a mobile home on leased land is distinctly different than an AOS for the sale of real estate, where a mobile home sits on owned land and is permanently attached to it. So one contract is definitely different from the other. For the mobile home that's on leased land, there'll be a section in that contract where you can write in the name of the community and the manager, how much the lot rent is and what the lot rent covers, as an example. So just be very careful about which contract you're selecting. Does anyone have any questions that they were thinking about during the broadcast about the different scenarios involving mobile home ownership and transfer?
What's the difference between mobile, modular,
Mm-hmm.
mobile and modular? Like, I know the difference between like manufactured, but like why is there so many?
Yeah, so there's a little technical difference between a mobile home and a modular. A mobile home, it has wheels, and so it can get transported from one place to another quite easily. However, a modular home is a home that may have pre-built components, but it is assembled on site, much like a stick-built home would be.
Yeah, modular home is like putting a box puzzle together, is what that is.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. You're
Something
assembling
that
a puzzle on the lot.
And then
Right.
what's manufactured?
Mm-hmm. So
That's
manufactured
well,
house,
both.
yeah, I mean, they both can be manufactured homes, different types of manufactured homes. But like a manufactured home might not necessarily be a mobile home.
I'm just doing a Zoom class, but go ahead, it's recorded.
Hello.
I can let you know.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I just the doctor got my system kind of brushed it off, whatever, you know. But then I called and took it in.
If I can mute. Yeah, so a manufactured home might not necessarily be a mobile home, because a manufactured home could be a modular and it could be also a mobile home. But a modular home, again, is built on site, whereas a mobile home is actually transported to the site, and all it needs to do is have hookups for water and sewer completed, and maybe put the skirting around it, and we're good to go. But a
So
modular
if the mobile home is like brought out and put on a foundation, is that still a mobile home even if all the wheels are gone?
So if you're going to put a mobile home on a foundation, it's most likely then that the owner owns that land, and
Yeah.
they're going to permanently affix it to the property. And
So
then
does
they're
that still make it a mobile home?
yeah, it's still a mobile home.
Okay.
Still a mobile home, but once that owner retires the title and affixes it permanently to the property, you can consider it to be real estate.
Right. FHA VA, different types of loans will qualify for a mobile home that is on a permanent foundation block, has a basement, or it also has hurricane clips. They're the big clips that
tie
clip
it
it into
down.
the ground. But it must be structural, it must be engineered. I mean, the hurricane clips must be certified by an engineer.
And after 1976, right?
Yes, correct. Anything before 1976, good luck.
Yes, indeed. It's an excellent point. Thank you, Omer. So, I hope that helps
Also,
in those distinctions. Go ahead, Omer.
something too you want to consider when you're showing a buyer a mobile home. They tell you the wheels are off. Doesn't hurt to look underneath to see if the axles are off too. And the tongue of the mobile home could throw a real wrench in the crankcase if it's sticking out in the front. Even if it's a planter, it can mean a lot, especially on its own land going for FHA.
Yeah, they want to see it off and removed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have any other questions? If you do, you think of them later, please, by all means, let me know. Be delighted to explain more detail about the closing process for mobile homes. And hopefully this has helped a little bit to shed some light on the different scenarios that we went across during our closings. So, thank you very much, everyone. It's been a pleasure to be with you this morning. And I look forward to next week when we talk about the mysteries of title insurance. Take care, everybody.